Look at this guy. While every other dude in the Love Island villa is literally begging for female attention, Chris Williamson is sitting there like he couldn't care less. Fast forward 8 years and this same man has built a 400 million download podcast empire by telling uncomfortable truths about why most men are completely invisible to high value women. You've probably seen guys like this before, completely immune to female validation, even when they're surrounded by Instagram models. But here's what's gonna mess with your head. If you're getting ignored by the women you actually want, you're probably doing the exact opposite of what Chris discovered. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Chris Williamson's brutally honest approach attracts millions of listeners. We're breaking down the most controversial takes, the research that sparked massive debates, and the uncomfortable truths that both feminists and traditional guys absolutely hate hearing.
Women are terrified of being approached by men because of stories of sexual assault, of dangers within the workplace, of overreach by men that are both in power and out of power. Men are terrified of approaching women for fear of being accused of all of those things.
The first controversy that put Chris on the map was cold hard data that made both sides of the dating debate lose their minds. When Chris appeared on the Diary of a CEO to discuss the mating crisis, he brought receipts that broke the internet. Here's the stat that triggered everyone. Women now earn 60% of college degrees and are outpacing men in almost every career metric. Meanwhile, 28% of men all under 30 are still living with their parents, compared to just 18% of women. But Chris argued this isn't celebrating female success, it's creating a mathematical impossibility in dating. His argument? Women are biologically wired to date up in terms of status and earning potential. But when women are increasingly the ones with degrees and careers, they're looking at a shrinking pool of men they'd actually consider dating. Think about the women you know who are crushing it professionally. How many are settling for guys who make less money or have less ambition? Be honest with yourself here. The data backs this up in uncomfortable ways. Women are 3 times more likely to swipe left on dating apps than men, and 78% say financial stability is now a major factor in partner selection. Meanwhile, men's standards have actually gotten lower. Chris connects this to the masculinity crisis. Society figured out how to motivate women to achieve, but forgot to give men a clear path forward. The result? A generation of guys who are less ambitious, less educated, and less relationship ready than the women they want to date. Supporters say Chris finally explained the dating crisis with data instead of blame. Critics argue he's perpetuating harmful stereotypes. But here's the brutal question. Are you actually keeping pace with the women you want to date or expecting them to settle for less?
If you don't spend time with 5 people a lot, but you spend time with a bunch of 100 people very regularly and they're all in a similar circle, it has the same effect. So spending time with having really important conversations.
The second controversy nearly got Chris cancelled. In a viral clip, Chris made a claim that sent shockwaves through social media. Women don't oppose OnlyFans because of morality. They oppose it because of competition. His argument was brutal in its simplicity. The harshest critics of OnlyFans weren't conservative men, they were other women. And according to Chris, this wasn't about ethics, it was about economics. Here's the uncomfortable data. 84% of OnlyFans opposition comes from women, despite women making up only 54% of social media users discussing it. Studies show women judge other women's sexual behavior 40% more harshly than men do. Chris's theory? When sex becomes easily accessible through OnlyFans, it disrupts the sexual marketplace. Traditional women understand that if men can get satisfaction without commitment, it reduces their negotiating power in relationships. Have you ever noticed how the harshest critics of OnlyFans in your social circle are usually women who want serious relationships? Chris would say that's not a coincidence. The evolutionary psychology is uncomfortable but compelling. Women historically use sexual selectivity to secure long-term investment from high-value men. If other women are giving away what was once carefully rationed, it threatens the entire system. Chris argues women police other women's sexuality more harshly than men ever could. Countries with higher rates of sex work show lower rates of marriage among high-earning men. The data supports his marketplace theory. The backlash was immediate. Feminists accused them of reducing women to market participants. Traditional conservatives said he was promoting degeneracy. But Chris doubled down with more data about sexual norms and male achievement.
What advice would you give to people that are in their 30s or entering their 30s about how to operate in life?
I think every person in their 20s and 30s should lift heavy weights and run long distances in their brain and in the gym. Push yourself really hard. And in 20 years, you're just going to look back on how strong you were and just marvel at it. And you're going to wish as strong as you were that you even push yourself harder.
Chris's third controversy wasn't about women. It was about men wasting their most valuable years. His advice was so brutally honest that it made grown men question everything. In his viral episodes about optimizing your 20s, Chris dropped the truth bomb. While you're spending hours daily on dating apps seeking female attention, high-value men invest that time in skills that compound over decades. Here's the math that changes everything. The average guy spends 90 minutes daily on dating apps and 2.5 hours on social media. That's 4 hours daily, 1,456 hours yearly focused on seeking validation from women. Be brutally honest, how much of that time did you spend yesterday scrolling Instagram versus working on something that actually improves your life? Most of you already know the answer. Chris calls this the time arbitrage advantage. Men who redirect just 2 hours daily from social media to skill development earn 47% more by the age of 30. They're also 3.2 times more likely to be in committed relationships with women they actually respect. But here's where Chris gets controversial. Most men optimize for the wrong timeline. They make decisions based on what feels good today rather than what builds attraction over years. His framework: will this action make me more attractive to quality women in 5 years? Most men fail this test miserably. Gaming for 4 hours? Fails. Binge watching Netflix? Fails. Arguing on Twitter? Epic fail. Learning valuable skills, building businesses, developing your body and mind? That's what makes high-value women notice. Chris reveals that high-value women test whether you can handle rejection with grace. The moment you become bitter and start blaming women, you lose their respect permanently. Studies show women rate emotional resilience as the most attractive quality in long-term partners.
I always felt reticent about the fact that I never got to do a psychology or philosophy degree at uni. I went to go and do business because I thought that would be useful. Learned nothing about business during my business degree. Two business degrees actually, including a master's.
The final piece in Chris's philosophy transformed him from Love Island reject to influential voice in modern masculinity, and it's the hardest truth for most men to accept. Chris stopped trying to attract women and started building the kind of man worthy of a quality relationship. Instead of pickup lines and manipulation tactics, he focused on modern wisdom, exploring psychology, philosophy, and the uncomfortable truths about human nature. Think about this. When was the last time you had a deep conversation about something that actually mattered? Most guys avoid these conversations because they're afraid of looking stupid. Men who focus on intellectual development report 67% higher relationship satisfaction and are 4.1 times more likely to attract partners they describe as high value. But this approach eliminates men who don't do the deep work of becoming valuable. High value women instantly sense whether you're performing or being genuine. Chris's willingness to discuss his mistakes and growth signals emotional maturity that quality women find irresistible. Ask yourself honestly, are you trying to trick women into liking you or actually becoming someone worth choosing? This difference determines whether you'll spend your life chasing validation or having high-quality women interested in your journey. Chris figured out what high-value women actually want. A man more interested in his own growth than their approval. Someone who can handle their success without feeling threatened. A guy who brings genuine value instead of just taking from it. So here's where we stand. Chris Williamson dropped 4 nuclear truth bombs explaining why 90% of men remain invisible to high-value women. The mating crisis is real. Female competition drives behavior. Most men waste their prime years chasing validation, and authentic self-development beats pickup trucks. But knowing this changes nothing unless you act. Which type of man will you be? The one who makes excuses or the one who adapts and thrives? If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you're seeing the truth. Drop a comment and let me know which of Chris's takes hit hardest. And if you're ready to stop being ignored by women you actually want, hit subscribe because we're just getting started. Remember, high-value women don't ignore you because they're shallow. They ignore you because you haven't given them a reason to pay attention. Change that and everything changes.